Hi, I'm Michael Anderson, and I'm a results leader.
You're listening to ResultsLeader.fm. Being a thought leader is easy. Getting results is hard. This show is for the results leader who lives and dies by their results. Here is your host and Chief Results Leader, Jonathan Rivera.
You're here. You made it. I am so glad that you are here with me on ResultsLeader.fm. Stoked to bring you another amazing interview. Today's guest is Mr. Michael D. Anderson, executive coach, blockchain builder, and amateur theologian. Wait till you hear this guy. Let's jump in. Michael, welcome to the show. Good to see you again. Are you ready to rock this thing?
Ready to rock.
Let's do it, man. Let's give our listeners a quick win, something that they can use right now. What book have you given most as a gift?
Book I've given most is a book called Practicing His Presence. It's a spiritual book, and once I actually gave it to my girlfriend as a birthday gift, and now she's my wife. So that's paid some good dividends. But it's a series of letters by Frank Laubach and Brother Lawrence that talk about their own spiritual journeys and spiritual practice of really being connected to God. And after they describe it, I see a pattern of people being inspired to take that time and really connect with a higher power.
Tell me a story of how an apparent failure set you up for later success.
Yes. Well, we're talking about my wife. And so when I think about failures, probably my first year of marriage, it was a little rocky there. We got married and 12 days later moved to England. So far away from family and friends. We're just really trying to figure it out in this house together. Primarily, around some of the common topics of like finances and just being overly involved or controlling in her schedule and what she was up to. And after sometimes almost literally banging my head against the wall and through some of that conflict, that failure has opened up amazing opportunities and growth for us in our marriage, and as well as helped me better serve clients who are going through certain struggles, or even friends who are, facing some of that similar friction, and being able to both empathize as well as share how that failure helped launch me into newer depths of love with me and my wife.
How about that? I like that. So what would you say is the most worthwhile investment you've ever made?
I think the most valuable investment we can give is time, and how the highest return on time for me has been kind of inspired by that book I mentioned at the start, is just taking this still, quiet time. Some people use it as a time of meditation or prayer. And so similar for me, having that silence, being away from the busyness of technology in the world and podcasts and all of these things, taking that quiet time, spending time either, reading the Bible or in prayer, that to me consistently, and making that commitment to do it on a daily basis, I've seen how there's a really strong correlation between my success or productivity and my consistency with being able to step away from the world and carve out 30 minutes or an hour even to be in silence and to think and pray.
We live in a world that is eternally moving, and there's people that will tell you they have no time. They're very busy. What would you say to those people that say they don't have time to be quiet?
I get that objection a lot, and we are all on our own spectrum of busy. But at the same time, we've got 24 hours in a day, and some people can build, great business empires or great organizations with that 24 hours in a day, and some people aren't able to. So I don't even think it's not so much about efficiency or even effectiveness as much as it is about selectiveness. And so how selective people are, right? And how they choose to spend their time. So you've got just as much time as everybody, more or less. There's no relativity. We have objectively the same amount of time. So it's really about prioritization and selecting what's most important. So I'd say reevaluate your priorities there.
In the last 5 years, what new belief, behavior, or habit has most improved your life?
So it goes back to that consistency. Specifically here, consistency reviewing my vision for life, a vision-driven life. And vision, I think, has come up in kind of LinkedIn conversations more recently. Why do you want to have something completely mapped out? Because you can miss out on some of the nuanced opportunities or unexpected things that life has to offer you. And so I think of it, having a clear vision for life. And this is something I work with my coaching clients on. It's more of a compass and a general guide and direction than it is a map or a checklist. We don't want to plan every day and moment. I don't think that's going to best serve us. It's having that guide and being able to go back to that and saying, is what I'm going to do today in line with what I've set out, with the compass or the vision that I have. And it's simple, but it's not easy. And having that consistency, right? It reduces drift from getting off of the intended direction or the intended path. And so for me, I've seen that as a huge impact, as well as some of the people I get to collaborate with.
So I got a couple follow-ups for you
Mm-hmm.
on this one. And I think one of the big issues that I see in people around me, and maybe you see this too, is people don't know what they want. And so how do
Mm-hmm.
you help somebody figure out what they want for that vision for their life?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I think it's really twofold. I think people have a greater intuition on what they want than they actually give themselves credit for. But too often they've either listened to the people around them that say these things are achievable or these things aren't, right? And so they've kind of created a smaller box, or they've kind of corralled themselves in to what's actually possible. And so what they want and what they believe is possible, it's like where a Venn diagram and those two sections don't actually meet. And so some of it is colliding those two parts of the Venn diagram together and saying, hey, there is actually more opportunity in creating some of a path. And so removing some of the mental constraints where what they previously thought wasn't possible becomes possible. And then you really get people starting to dream. When you remove some of those constraints, then they can start dreaming. And that work, it kind of gives us this blue sky moment. And then we can go back and edit and kind of refine what it is. But I think people start from a too constrained, too limited perspective in the beginning to really dream up and figure out what they actually do want.
How do you release them from those constraints?
There's a a simple question is like, if you could not fail, what would you do? Right. And so that right there, and saying, hey, if money or time or education was not a constraint, how would you want to spend your time, or what is the work that you'd like to see happen in the world? And so I think a lot of us, and everybody's a different person, and so there's individualized limitations that we place on ourselves. And so it's in doing this enough, you get some of the pattern recognition and see where people basically are limiting themselves specific to them, whether it's a family member, or they don't have mentors who've gone off and done this or whatever. You can pretty quickly kind of diagnose what are some of the specific limitations to them.
What I hear you saying is go back to being a kid and dare to dream. Just
Yes.
be open to it, right? My kid
Yep.
thinks he can do anything. And I'm like, well, all right, let me not squash that. But
Exactly.
what about you, man? You're talking about vision for life. What is your vision for life?
My vision for life, there are a few different exercises that help do this, but in its simplest form, what I want to be able to say is, when I was here on this earth, I walked with God and I love people better than I love myself. I think that's ultimately what it comes down to, is relationships give meaning to life. I think faith is a really big part of who I am in my journey and where I derive meaning and clarity and all good things and joy in life. So those two are the biggest areas of focus, are loving people well and loving God well.
What are some bad recommendations you hear in your area of expertise?
Well, I'm in the executive coaching space, and coaching is kind of the Wild West, where you get, anybody can kind of hang up a shingle and say they're a coach. So you hear the whole gambit. But I think consistently what I see, the practice or recommendation that does not serve others in the coaching space, is being overly focused on a certain methodology or a practice, right? A lot of the advertisements people see on LinkedIn or Instagram or other social media is, hey, I've got this playbook for success. You follow these methodologies, these tools, or do it like I did, and you'll get these specific results. And what I've seen is that everybody is, we see everybody as an individual, right? And so there are individual things that's going to make them individually successful for their individual vision. And so it has to be much more tailored to the person. I mean, you've seen somebody with a suit on that doesn't fit, and you've seen somebody with, could be that same suit that's well tailored. It's a massive difference, right? And so if you just have that visual in and of itself, I think that's a great representation of kind of general boilerplate template advice versus something specific.
Are you enjoying the interview? Yeah, I had to jump in here for a second and ask you, if you've been listening for a while and you haven't subscribed to this show, why not? Go to wherever you listen to podcasts, type in Results Leader FM, and hit the subscribe button. That way you never miss another episode. Now that we got that out of the way, let's jump back into the interview. Why do results matter?
Well, without results, we're kind of just spinning in circles. And so I think if anything, results are proof of the right process and the right input. And I think it's really important that it's okay that we can have a preference and an intention, but to be more open-handed in the outcomes, right? But circling back, what do we actually have control over? And regarding that is those specific inputs versus those outputs.
In the last 5 years, what new realization has helped you get better results for your clients?
That I am not the hero. Everyone is the hero of their own story. My role is to play guide. Originally, when I started out on my coaching journey, I wanted to be able to add as much value and really help people and all of that stuff. And so it was very easy for me to overstep bounds and try to give too much advice or ask too many questions, thinking that, that was essentially the value I was creating. But I've realized over time that, right, everybody wants to be the hero of their own story. And to appropriately, my best thing that I can do is be radically present and create the space for them to think and grow and journey on their own. And when they're reaching a dead end or something that's a blocker, then leaning in and helping them burst through that, but giving them a lot of space to come up with some of the answers on their own. And ultimately, I'm not going to work with people for the entirety of their life in most cases. And likewise, we're going to separate ways. And so how I measure success is this person going to continue to be growing and be successful 5, 10, 20 years from now from some of the stuff that we get to talk about and work on?
I don't understand, man. Why can't you be the hero?
Why can't I be? Well, I feel everybody's a hero of their own story. And so, I've got my own story, but in terms of actually partnering with clients, I think it's their job to take up that mantle. I'm not the superhero that's rescuing and saving them every day. Maybe that's a good sustainable business model because they always need to keep calling me. But ultimately, when I think about what is best for them, is they've got to be able to stand up on their own 2 feet, on their own strength, and give them the tools and the superpowers to face and conquer their own monsters.
Let's push on that a little bit more. If they had those tools, if they had that ability, then why would they need a coach?
Well, I think coaching helps show them what some of those things are. It kind of reveals what some of those things, and whether they've always had it and it's just laid dormant and we get to pull some of those things out, or get to double down on some of their existing strengths and we apply it in a new area or vector of life, or again, it's just that introduction of what is actually possible.
What about you, man? What area of your business would you like better results?
I think the area I'd like better results in is the higher hanging fruit on the tree. I think the fun excitement with when you start a coaching engagement is, there's pretty clearly some low hanging fruit that is the main reason that people are coming to me in the first place and wanting to have these conversations, and the things we can quickly attack and get some quick wins on. But after working for somebody or with somebody for 9, 12, or 18 months, we were able to get a lot of that low hanging fruit or even medium fruit. And so it becomes, there's a lot greater effort to get to that last 20%. So I think for me, my goal with working with people is there is a slower growth trajectory that we all have, right? Where we have to reassess things. And rather than it turning into a plateau or to like kind of a bell curve where things wane back, turning somebody's growth into an S curve where they get that second bump.
What results are you most proud of?
Especially in my work, I guess there's 2 things. There's a personal result. I'm most proud of my marriage. It is something that is a continual fountain of joy and growth, and we encourage one another. We challenge one another. We are best friends, adventure buddies, lovers, business partners, the whole thing. And so that's been, is one of the greatest joys of my life. And also in the work that I get to do in coaching, I think it's incredibly meaningful and powerful. And, we've seen lots of, revenue growth, scaling companies, starting new businesses, all that business stuff is good, but that's not the stuff that people bring up in your eulogy or people put on your gravestone, right? Are the people that I'm working with, are they becoming better humans? Are they better fathers and mothers and spouses? And are they better colleagues to work with? Are they better leaders, right, within their organization? They have more compassion and generosity. And that's the stuff that gets me excited to wake up in the morning.
If I go too far, you can tell me, but I feel the urge to ask this question. So I'm going to throw it out there. It's not on the script. How important is it to pick the right partner? to pick the right spouse?
It is supremely important. I do feel that waiting for the right person, I think a lot of people are, or something that I've observed in people that jump in too soon is they have kind of this open slot. It's like an open position in a company. And they're like, hey, we really need to fill this role. They feel urgency to fill the role. And so they look at a candidate pool and say, okay, who's the best option that we have? Okay, that's who we're going to have fill the role. And it's led by the role versus the actual person. And so trying to flip the script and saying, going back to that vision, like, what are some of the qualities I most admire in a potential partner, right? Or the things that really I think would make me a better person. Because at the end of the day, I think the quickest sign of a great relationship, whether it's yours or someone else's, is do these two people make one another better? And so starting from that place and using that as some of the decision criteria, looking for the right person rather than trying to fill the right role, I think has a massive difference.
Yeah, and I hear it because there was some words that you chose that I want to highlight for listeners wondering, why did he go down this route? And it's because two words that you used that got my attention were encourage and challenge. So there was two sides of that. And that encouraging and challenging, I can see how that makes you a better person. And so I'm glad you put that together for us. Excellent, man. You didn't know we were going there, did you? Any parting thoughts for the results leaders who are listening to us right now?
Yes. The only thing, I love these questions. I think it's the great thing about asking these questions. I get the privilege of you asking me directly and really having to think about it. I encourage those listening to be asking this and kind of write their own responses as, they had the opportunity to hop on your podcast. And also, when you're looking to get results, I think leading with a place of curiosity and humility is, at least for me anyway, and some high achievers that I've seen, it's like double down, work harder, work more, be more aggressive, right? But taking humility and saying, maybe the path I'm on or the direction I'm taking or the tool I'm using to solve this problem isn't the best one. And I have curiosity to explore other paths. And that humility and curiosity can really yield you some amazing results.
Excellent, man. And I know that our listeners are going to want more. So where can they go to get more of you, Michael?
Absolutely. I am on LinkedIn, Twitter. Those were places I'm pretty active from a social media perspective at hey_M Anderson or Manderson. And then you can jump on my website at cornerstoneleaders.com.
Excellent. We will share links to everything in the show notes. We've been speaking with Mr. Michael Anderson. Thank you for being here and sharing your wisdom with us. And thank you, results leaders, for tuning in. Another episode is in the can. That is a wrap for another edition of ResultsLeader.fm. If you are out there getting results for your clients and you want to be featured on the show, go to ResultsLeader.fm now and apply to be on the show. And if you love what you're hearing, share the show, give us a rating and review, do anything to help us get the message out there. Thought leadership is easy, but results leadership is hard. We'll catch you on the next one.
This program is brought to you by thepodcastfactory.com.